What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for another episode of Under the Radar, where I briefly review some albums I didn't give a full review to during a certain week. In this case, the episode is albums that came out the week of January 28th, even though we're in February now. There were quite a few albums that came out this past weekend that I didn't get a chance to do a full review for, but I am here, as always with every Under the Radar episode, to give a brief review and a score for each album as we go along. In this case, we have 4 albums to talk about that came out on the week of January 28th, and we're going to kick it off with a bit of an interesting one, and it's a debut album from Portuguese, progressive melodic death metal band Bhoot, which is spelled B-H-O-O-T, and their album From the Ground Up. So, when I saw that this was a debut and it's progressive melodic death metal, I was very intrigued to hear how this is. And also because my good buddy Artur from the Horseman podcast, being from Portugal, I decided, you know what, to kind of give him a bit of a smirk, I would talk about a Portuguese band for one of these episodes. And I thought, with a band named Bhoot and their prog melodeath, I thought, let's give this a listen. And, you know, for a debut, this was actually a solid debut. The melodies were very prominent all throughout. The prog song structures on a few of the longer tracks were really cool. Even some electronic or even techno moments I hear on a couple of tracks where, yeah, you can definitely tell with this album. I just got through eating dinner and I had some spicy shrimp, so if I'm coughing during this video, I apologize. But anyways, yeah, they're definitely experimenting here for their debut by incorporating those electronic elements to kind of add a little bit of like a futuristic atmosphere, so to speak, on to lead into certain parts of songs. But yeah, the death growls were quite strong. Even some of the occasional clean vocals were really good too. The only complaint I really had is I thought a lot of the songs were too short for what they were wanting to go for. I feel like whenever you're a prog band, you should definitely have a good amount of songs that are longer, and maybe they could have like mashed together a few tracks into like a longer track or a few longer tracks, and I think it would have made this album a little bit stronger in my mind, because after all, this album's about 55 minutes long. It's like 11-12 tracks. When you're going for a more progressive style of songwriting, I was kind of hoping to see like longer tracks or hear longer tracks like 7 to 9, maybe even 10 minutes. But who knows? I mean, after all, this is their debut. They're still kind of figuring out what they want to do for sure. But for a debut, I thought it was pretty solid. I actually give this an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely some potential with this band, because I also forgot to mention there were moments in the album that kind of reminded me of In Mourning, a little bit of Opeth, a little bit of Insomnium at times. Like, definitely Bhoot has potential to kind of break out in that prog death metal, melodic death metal scene, and this is a good foundation for them. I definitely see whenever they get to do a second album, it will definitely probably be one to look out for. Moving on to the second album to talk about, I'm talking about a power metal band from Greece. What is it with Greece so far here in the first month of the year, pumping out some material? Because, you know, like Abyssus and Vicious Knights, among a few others. But this one, different. This is power metal, and it's Emerald Sun with the album Kingdom of Gods. So yeah, while I'm not the biggest fan of power metal, I do enjoy power metal when done right. And I think this is an example of power metal done right. Like, it's not too over the top and too much of like the neoclassical, super polished style that you hear in modern power metal these days. This is a little bit more gritty. Like, this is a little more raw sounding to me, like, and also even the vocals, like, although I will say the one thing that kind of bothered me about this album, the vocal performances, like, the different styles that this vocalist was going for. It's like sometimes he would be trying to sound too gritty when it came to trying to go for the higher notes, but when he was in like mid to low range, he was really, really good. And like the choir choruses on this album, I actually thought were quite powerful. And there were some really cool, like, classic sounding riffs on this album. Stuff that reminds me of Judas Priest, of Iron Maiden, of like, classic era Helloween. After all, if you go to this band's Metallum page, Helloween's, like, the highest band compared to Emerald Sun. So I hear a little bit of, like, that early German power metal, a little bit of Priest, a little bit of Maiden. But the title track was a standout because it sounded like if Iron Maiden went doom metal. Like, it was quite doomy for a power metal song. It's like a mashup of the two genres, kind of like combining Iron Maiden with Black Sabbath almost. And I thought that song was really fucking strong on this album. But yeah, like I said, the vocal performance was kind of inconsistent for me, as well as, like, it was maybe a bit too hokey. But then again, it's power metal. It's bound to be a bit hokey and cheesy. After all, it's fantasy or fantastical lyrics, so you just got to get used to it. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just maybe they were kind of pushing the cheesy limits a little bit too much. But aside from that, I thought this was another really solid album. I give it an 8.5 out of 10 as well. Definitely gonna check out more from this band because, yeah, this isn't like modern power metal. This is more raw and gritty sounding, like in the back when the genre started in the 80s. It kind of like sounded like it took it back to its roots a little bit, musically speaking, and production as well. Next up, we get to one of the first black metal albums I'm checking out. Well, it's not quite black metal. It's symphonic black / death metal, and that is a band from Pennsylvania called Tine. And the album is called Mergae Maris Profundi. I hope I got that correct. If I didn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, a symphonic black / death metal band. Kind of like, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, as I was listening to this, there were a ton of great like black metal parts and a lot of amazing death metal moments. Like the black metal kind of reminded me a little bit of like Emperor and Immortal, maybe a little bit of Old Mayhem. But the death metal parts, which were, I think, some of the best parts of the album, had some Morbid Angel influence, a little bit of Immolation even at times, a little Behemoth, maybe even a little bit of Vader. Like, it's kind of like taking, like, the evil side of death metal with those bands, like Morbid Angel, Immolation, Vader, and Behemoth, with the bombastic, epic, yet very evil-sounding black metal stuff like Immortal and Emperor and Old Mayhem. It was kind of like a hybrid of all those bands kind of mashed together, with the symphonic elements on top, lots of piano parts and orchestral elements, and I thought it was done tastefully well for the most part. And I can even hear, it's like with the way the songs were put together, though, kind of almost a prog album to some extent, because you got quite a lot of long songs on this album. That, hell, one song I think was almost 11 minutes, and it was very proggy for what they were going for. So it's kind of like prog, symphonic, black death metal almost. But I really enjoyed this album for what it was, because all of those different influences kind of meshed together really, really well, and I look forward to hearing new stuff from this band, and I need to check out some of their other stuff. And I give this album a 9 out of 10. This is great stuff. I mean, definitely if you like symphonic black metal, if you like death metal, if you like a little bit of prog in that kind of veneer, this is definitely the album for you. It's very well crafted, I would say. Which leads us to the final album I'm talking about, and it's another debut, and it's from Nighthag called Phantasmal Scourge, and this is a death doom band, and this is their first go. And when I was looking them up on Metallum, I saw that they were compared to bands like Autopsy and Winter, Disembowelment, Hooded Menace. I definitely hear a lot of Winter and Disembowelment on this album, but then you would get moments where they, as in the doominess is almost kind of bordering on funeral doom even at times, because it's very slow and plodding with all those doom moments. But then you would suddenly get all these like fast moments, whether it be in like a grindcore sense or black metal. You would get blast beats from time to time with fast thrashy riffs or tremolo riffing and like the black metal blast beat. And even black metal vocals, like the death growls, were quite gross and disgusting. Yet whenever he's doing like the higher black metal shriek, it was freaky and creepy in its own right. So definitely for a first go for a new band playing in this like kind of cavernous, claustrophobic Death Doom style, kind of trying to mash up almost every kind of Death Doom. Maybe not so much melodic Death Doom. There's not a whole lot of melody going on here. It's more just stripped down, in your face, trying like skeletons are getting ready to attack you. That's the kind of vibe I get off of this debut, and for the most part, this was a really good debut. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more from this band in the coming years, and I give this one a 9 out of 10 as well. Fantastic Death Doom right here. But, yeah, really good stuff. No complaints really at all, except for maybe some of the Doom moments kind of dragged a little bit at times, but then again, that is a thing with Doom in general. Sometimes they do tend to drag certain sections out a little too long, but after all, it is kind of a thing with the genre that you just have to get used to. But anyways, what did you guys think of all these albums if you've heard them? If you've not heard them, there will be links in the description box for you guys to listen to these albums. I recommend checking them all out. So, thank you guys for watching, horns high, and I will see you in the next one.
What the heck is fellatio?
Cole, out of all the
Deep-throating a
people in
dick.
here, you should know what that is.
Every time I'm soft,
Yeah.
I'm trying to dab a shine.
Is it a new way to torture
It's getting a
people?
little too friendly.
No!
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Wait, so fellatio is stimulation of the penis? Really?
Thanks for letting me do that. I might pick that part.
Cole. It's another name for a blowjob.
Okay. Every time I'm...
I thought it was a dick
It's a
punishment.
deep throat blowjob.
Alright, here we go. Okay.
Moving on.
Sounds like Carson's getting one right now.
God damn it.
This game has gone to hell.